So, how comfortable do we feel with poetry? Let's be honest. We're not very comfortable? Okay, I'm going to teach y'all an easy way to look at poetry and get what you need out of it without having to, like, be a poetic genius or something, okay? So I'm going to teach y'all how to do that. So, on the side of this, I want you to write the letter T. See the edge of the page is right here? And then next to T, we're going to put title. Okay, so next to T, we put title. So let's circle the title, My Papa's Waltz. What do we think it's going to be about based off the fact that we have My Papa's Waltz? Just the title. A dance. What else? Grandpa or dad. So a dance with grandpa or dad, or what? Okay, with or for. Anybody else have any random idea about what it could be about? We're good? Okay, so the first thing you're always going to look at is the title. So, second thing we're going to go over is, do y'all know what a line in poetry is? Like, that's obvious, right? So, like, one thing right here, that's a line, correct? What is a stanza? Like a paragraph in a poem. So, chunk it right here and just write stanza. Even though I know you know that, we're going to write that anyway. Okay, so what about rhyme scheme? Do we know what rhyme scheme is?
What words rhyme like ABA?
Yes, like the ABA. We're familiar with that? Cool, so we know that. So we're already a step ahead of where we thought y'all were, so that's good. Okay, so we are going to, what's it called when you tell me what you think is going to happen? No, the other one. Say it again. Predict. There we go. Okay. I promise y'all I have a degree. Okay, so the first thing you're always going to do is you're going to predict. You're going to predict the title, predict what the poem is going to be about based off just the title. Okay? The second thing we're going to do under the T, no, before we do that, we're going to read through it. Okay, so we predicted based off the title, now we're going to read through it. Everybody ready? My Papa's Waltz by Theodore Rothke. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. What do we think about it? Just initial response, like initial reactions. Okay, so dad might be an alcoholic. Abuse. Anything else? Overall, are we going to say this is positive or negative? Probably negative. Okay, so after you do your first read, we're going to put a P out to the side. And we're going to paraphrase. What does it mean to paraphrase? Shorten what? Yeah, you're going to kind of summarize, but in a much shorter way. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to take this thing apart. So we're going to start until we go to and you're going to stop when you see the punctuation. Okay, because poetry is weird like that. So, the whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy. What does that mean?
Like he smells the alcohol.
Okay, so who smells the alcohol on him? The boy. So we're going to say the speaker, because it's the kid. Speaker smells the alcohol on his breath. So if he can smell the alcohol on his breath, what do we know about how much alcohol the dad consumes? So I'm going to say dad equals alcoholic. Okay, the next part, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. What do we think? I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. So what did the dad try to do with the boy? Okay, so dad teaches boy to dance. I'm going to circle the word teaches because I don't know that he was teaching him. But he would try to dance with the boy, and what would the boy do? Why? Okay, so they would mess up. So remember, the dad's an alcoholic, so why would they be messing up when they're trying to dance? He's drunk. He can't stay in a straight line. He can't be stable. Okay, let's move to the second stanza. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. What word in there is not a word that we see every day? Romped. So let's circle that word. Can somebody Google that real quick?
Hey Siri. Hey Siri, what does romped mean?
As a verb, it means, especially if a child or animal play roughly and energetically.
Okay.
Do you want to hear the remaining one?
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Siri. So I'm going to circle it and just put play roughly. So we romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. What's happening? They're bumping into stuff. Why are they bumping into stuff? So dad, do we want to say tipsy or more than that? He's drunk, yeah. Keeping it PG. Okay, so bumping into stuff because dad is drunk. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. Are we circling anything? Countenance. Okay, we might be able to use context clues to figure out what this word means. What do we think it means based off of this last part? Could not unfrown itself. Probably her face, right? Where are we getting that from? Unfrown, because frown is typically when you're like frowning, you're mad, you're sad. So her face could not unfrown itself. So what do we know about mom? Mom is upset. Anything else other than mom is upset? Okay, let's move to the next stanza. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. What do we think? Whose hand held his wrist? So what do we know about dad's knuckle? Okay, so dad's hand, I'm just going to say is messed up. So we can assume or we can infer that maybe he's been beating people. Bless you. Say it again.
She said that maybe he got in a bar fight.
Okay.
Doesn't know what the son is.
He went home.
Oh, sorry, I'm slow.
Maybe a bar fight. We don't know. We're just assuming. What else could that be from? Beating the kid. Beating the mom.
Whenever he gets frustrated because he misses steps, like he might punch the wall or something.
Okay, so frustration. I'm going to add that in there. Here's something to think about. I don't know about y'all, but my dad did manual labor his whole life. He worked outside. He actually worked for the parks department for the city. but he worked outside his whole life. My dad's hands were never soft and pretty. There was always like he would drop a rock or something would happen where his hands would be like real rough and messed up. So could that be coming from work? Okay, so I'm going to just put that in there with a question mark because we don't really know for sure. We do know more than likely it's coming from beating people because we're just following the pattern of where he's been at this point. Does that make sense? Okay, so the hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. Yeah, okay, so we know that the kid is, I'm going to say kid's height is probably at the dad's waist. So what does it mean at every step you missed?
Every step of your left feet, everything like that.
Okay, so every time the dad would stumble, what would happen?
He would scrape the ears.
Yeah, the kid's ear would get hurt. I just put kid's ear hurt. I've never scraped my ear on a buckle, but I can just imagine that probably doesn't feel good even a little bit. You've done it before? Can't imagine. Alright, last stanza. You beat me on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt. You beat me on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt. What is beat time? You're counting the beat. So you beat time on my head, so what was the dad doing to the little boy? Like patting his head into the beat, or trying to, with a palm caked hard by dirt. Man hands, yeah. So I'm going to say dad might be doing manual labor. We still don't know. But, I mean, why else would his hand be covered with dirt? Okay, last two lines. Then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. Took him to bed. What did the boy do? He wouldn't let him go. Why do we think he wouldn't let him go? Boy wouldn't let go of him. Any ideas why he wouldn't let go of his dad? Maybe keep trying, so he wouldn't hit his mom.
I mean, read the story, man.
Well, do any of the words in here show that he's like some stand-up guy? Kind of depends on how you look at it. I say no. I say that he probably is not a very nice guy, but that's how I'm looking at it. Poetry is super subjective, so it could, you're just going to have to base it off what you see. Okay, so good news, bad news. We're finished with that part, but that was only the P. Okay, we've got like a ton of more letters left. All right, next is this C. C, and I want you to write connotation. Who knows what connotation means? Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, connotation is where the meaning is not necessarily what it means in the dictionary. Okay, so it kind of can sometimes mean something different just based off of how you use it. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's look through here. Right here, I'm going to circle, but I hung on like death. Y'all learned about this last week with Miss Cobbler. What type of figurative language is that? simile, so I'm going to write that out to the side. I hung on like death. So what does that mean? I hung on like death. Okay, so cannot, like absolutely cannot let go. I'm going to squeeze this in there. Your paper is about to get real messy, I hate to tell you. So cannot let go, like absolutely cannot let go. Okay, I don't see any other words that, or any other phrases here that I would think would be different from what they sound like, but I am going to see here. Maybe not. Circle caked. We're going to circle caked. Are we talking about, let me sit down and eat some birthday cake here. What does this mean? So, that's a good, thick layer. Okay, so it's not like, oh, I accidentally got some dirt on my hand. We're talking, his hands are covered. Thick layer of dirt. Okay, so for connotation, what you normally want to do is you want to look for figurative language. You want to look for words that don't necessarily mean what they mean in the dictionary. Okay, which there's not a whole lot in this one. Okay, the next part after the C is A. So we've predicted what it is off the title. We've paraphrased it. We've looked at the connotation of it. Now we're looking at the attitude. And then in parentheses, I want you to put tone. Attitude, and in parentheses, tone. Okay, I've got my two different color highlighters. At the very top of my paper, I'm going to make myself a key. And I'm going to do two colors. I'm going to say the pink is positive. Purple's negative. That's just how mine is. Make yourself a key. Positive and negative. Okay, so let's start with the negative word. No, let's start with the positive words. If we're looking at the poem in context, so we're looking at it overall, where are the positive things happening, the positive words coming from? Yep. Positive words, positive phrases, positive lines. Still clinging to your shirt? That's interesting. Take your pen, pencil, whatever, and circle clinging. If we're clinging on to something, is that a positive or negative idea? What would I be clinging to that's positive? Clinging to memories? Yeah, somebody said that's kind of sad. So somebody you haven't seen in a long time, so you're clinging to them. Okay, I can see that, but I do think that is kind of still more on the sad side. If you feel like clinging is positive, go ahead and highlight that positive. Okay, again, it's based off of what you think. So if you think it's positive, highlight it positive. I'm not, because I think I'm looking at it in the context of the poem. Okay, I'm switching to the negative highlighter. All right, where's the first thing I'm going to highlight negative? Whiskey on your breath. Where else? Small boy dizzy, hung on like death. Was not easy. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. Is there anything super negative about that? No. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. Unfrown itself. I'm just going to do could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. Battered. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. Missed. Scraped. I'm going to scrape a buckle. You beat time on my head. Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you about beat. If the dad is clearly drunk, is this going to be like a soft type of beating? No, he's probably being very rough. So you beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt. Caked hard by dirt. Then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. I'm going to do clinging. You don't have to. That's just the way that I'm looking at it. Okay, so do we have more positive or negative? Negative. Clearly, right? Negative. Okay, so if we had to look at the tone of this piece, what would we say the tone is? We're going to be on the negative tones. What do y'all want to say? This is a cold tone. That might work. What else? Depressing tone. Aggressive. Afraid. Anxious, upsetting. Which one do we want to go with? An aggressive tone. That'll work. So, on your poem, we're going to write, under attitude, we're going to write aggressive. Okay, so that was Tpcastt. This is shift. Shift. Now the shift is in reference to the tone. Do we start out aggressive and ever get like loving or anything like that? Is there ever a shift, or is he aggressive the whole way through? He's aggressive the whole way through, so there's no shift. Okay, under the S is our first T, or really second T. We're going to say title again. Now we're going to go back and look at the title again. What does My Papa's Waltz mean now that we've gone through this poem? The what? So, drunken dancing with dad. Yeah. Drunken, oh, I'm not even on the screen. Drunken dancing with dad. How often do we think this happened? A lot, right? Okay, so Tpcastt, and the very last T is theme. If we had to do, remember we did those 3 circles thing? If we're looking at that outside circle, we have to say, what is the theme of this poem? What message is the author trying to give us based off of this poem? Remember, it can't be specific to the poem. It has to be like a general statement. So love conquers all, never judge a book by its cover. What kind of statement would we say is happening through this poem? Dancing's not always beautiful. That'd be a good one. Let's write it. I'm not 100% sold on it yet. I mean, it's good. I'm just saying. Dancing is not always beautiful. Ms. Cobbler, do you have one in your head? I'm struggling. I'm struggling to come up with one. What other message about the world is the author trying to tell us?
He still cherish bad memories.
Okay. I'm going to make one also. Parents show love in different ways. Because he's dancing with that kid, right? He's waltzing him off to bed. Maybe dad doesn't know how else to show love. And this is his way to do it. Do y'all see how we got many ideas, but they're all kind of around the same idea? Okay, this right here, what you guys just did, your paper is probably super messy. This is called Tpcastt. Okay, Tpcastt is when you're taking the poem and all you did was go through and we took it apart and made it make sense to us. That's all we're doing. Okay? So, keep this, hang on to it because you're going to use it tomorrow. If you used our highlighters, put them on my desk. And once you do that, make sure that you are a good friend to everybody today, including yourself, and we will see you mañana.